On today's episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand, I got a chance to chat with Mark Ritz from Carnivore Snacks. We had such a good conversation all around their growth. They're going to do around 12 million this year. Absolute massive growth with taking a huge amount of time off in between, which to me, I just thought that would actually kill their momentum. And it sounds like it might have actually done the opposite. We talked about what it looks like when, one of the biggest celebrities in North America gets a hold of your product and absolutely loves it. You guys are definitely going to want to have a listen to this one. Hey guys, Jordan West back with another episode of Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand. I am super excited about this conversation today. I met Mark on Twitter probably a couple months ago, just because Twitter is a great place. Guys, if you're not on Twitter as a founder, it is one of the best places to connect with other founders and just people who are actual humans. I love LinkedIn too. You guys know I'm big on LinkedIn, but Twitter, there's something special about Twitter. And so anyway, Mark and I were easily able to connect over there, and he's, in the process of building a new warehouse, wanted to check ours out. We had an awesome conversation around that. And I was like, dude, you're doing way too many amazing things for me not to have you on the podcast. So anyway, without further ado, Mark Ritz from carnivoresnacks.com. Mark, welcome to Secrets to Scaling Your E-commerce Brand.
Dude, thanks so much for having me, man. I'm super excited for this.
Yeah. So am I. I'm very excited to dive into a couple of the subjects that we talked about last time that I think are just absolutely phenomenal. I've actually talked about this once before, but you kind of took it to the next level. So anyway, before we get into all of that, tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you guys do.
Yeah, so I'm co-founder, CEO at Carnivore Snacks. I've been involved in the e-com space for about 7 years. Prior to that, I worked for Costco Wholesale for 12 years. Fell in love with the membership model there and the culture that was built. And surprisingly, at a young age, I never knew that I would appreciate Costco so much in my later life. So I carry a lot of that through how we operate our company. I've been a director of e-commerce for a couple companies. I started off in the email marketing space. That's how I really got into e-commerce. And I've just always wanted to kind of run my own thing. And my co-founder reached out one day with a product idea, and she let me try it. And I was like, oh, we got to go in together on this and blow it up. And here we are.
Yes. And blow it up. You are doing as we speak right now. So tell me why the product, like why was there another, one of these kinds of products in this specific category? Walk me through like what it is, why when you tasted it or however felt it, whatever you were doing, looked at it, you're like, yeah, this is it. There's a massive gap in the market with this in particular. What was that exactly?
Yeah. So my co-founder, Sylvia Tabor, she actually did the carnivore diet for almost 3 years. It was literally just meat, salt, and water for literally almost 3 years. Cured a lot of her ailments. And she was traveling very far away to work every day. And yeah, through her, protocol, she did not want to eat any meat snacks that had marinades or spices. And obviously, the sugars, like that's health 101. She was already avoiding that. So it was really like the marinades and the spices that were an issue for her. Yeah.
And the sugars, so everybody knows, I just want to put that out there. Man, they sneak that stuff in with so many of these products, right? Like it's all of this stuff is just snuck in there, and it's very difficult to find stuff without it. So sorry, keep going, Mark.
Absolutely. And so she actually had access to a small little manufacturing space next to her aunt who was making a similar product, but for pets. And so she just started to experiment and make something for herself for her commutes to work. And then she had met me through my first business, which ultimately failed. And when she reached out to me, all it was a question, do you know anybody that can make a website? And that's when I asked her to send me some product. And when I got to try it, I was expecting some sort of jerky, just like everybody does the first time they try it. Yeah. When you bite into it and you begin to chew on it, 2-3 seconds later, it's mind-blowing, the texture. It's not jerky. It is very much different. It is very much different than biltong. People refer to it almost like a meat pastry, but then there's a couple products that we have that are more like a meat chip. So it's just very unique and very different.
That's super interesting. And also I'm super excited about this. I did some reach outs for you in Canada. I haven't found anyone awesome yet. for distribution. But as a Canadian, I'm like, oh, I want to get my hands on this stuff. So let's talk about your early growth, because you guys have been growing at quite a clip lately. Tell me about like one or two sort of pivotal moments that were there in that early stage growth, because obviously, you'd been through it on the corporate side. It sounds like, some of the agency side, you've been through these sorts of things. What did you take? Like, what kind of learnings have you taken from that sort of environment that then allowed you to actually grow fast and huge?
Yeah, so definitely it was email that got us going. When we did our Kickstarter, it was full focus of let's just collect as many emails as possible before we launch. And that's like the number one tip for anybody that's thinking about a Kickstarter. You absolutely just have to have a good list to launch that to, or else it will be crickets.
Yeah.
So we basically took her following. So again, with her doing the carnivore diet, people were religiously following her. She was documenting everything. She was on social every day. Yes. And she was actually quite engaging because she didn't show her face for like 2.5 years. It was pretty wild. So she built this unique following. And those were the people that we ended up just saying, hey, we got a product idea. Submit your email here on this landing page. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter. And then we just sent a whole bunch of product out to people that she had met in the carnivore space, because she was early there. And so she was close with a lot of the top 10, top 15 names in the space. Yeah. And so she had, it was covered. And, where she didn't really know too much about the marketing side or what to do, I had failed in my first business because I launched an idea to nobody. Just a cool idea, but nobody was there. And so I could tell. I was like, we can do something with this. And so we collected all the emails. We did our Kickstarter in April of 2020. And after it was all said and done with some of the post-purchase upsell softwares that are available in there, we did about $200,000. And that was a pivotal moment for us to just realize, we have something pretty big here, because doing 200
huge for a CPG brand, isn't it, Mark? Like,
yeah,
that's big on Kickstarter for CPG, right?
It sure is.
Okay. I know I've got friends who have done, they've done like $1 million launches on Kickstarter, but these are like $100 backpacks. So I'm imagining that there's a bit of a difference here.
Yeah, I mean, our average order value is pretty huge, but I would say it's different. Kickstarter is more known for some of the like you're saying, and maybe not so much the CBD stuff.
Totally. To anything Kickstarter, anything techified or AI-ified or any of that kind of stuff. Perfect play. So it's amazing that you guys actually started out like that. Walk me through when you knew like, oh, hey, wow, like this is going to be a real business. Like we've actually got something here.
Yeah. So after Kickstarter, it took about 5.5, 6 months for us to figure out what the hell we were going to do, since we had all these orders. We were like, all right, so now how do we go make it? Are you going to make this by yourself, Sylvia? And we're going to ship it all out? And she said, well, yeah, the answer is yes. So I'm going to make this all by myself and ship it out. And so that's what she did. And we finished that by about December of 2020. And we launched our website. And in 7 months, we did about $1 million. And that was the moment that she said, hey, I can't do this anymore. She was making it by herself, sleeping next to her equipment. And she was living in Arizona.
$1 million of carnivore snacks
by herself
on her own.
Yes. And I was in Columbus, Ohio, and she was in Arizona. And she was like, I can't do it anymore. And I said, all right, we need to look for a place. Are we doing it in your neck of the woods or my neck of the woods? And we ultimately decided in my neck of the woods, just because I was kind of operating the company and she was making the product.
Yeah.
And so she moved out here. We had closed the business down. I think it was about July of 2021. Didn't reopen until January of 2022. That was the darkest moments, because we were trying to get into our new warehouse, which took 5 months to get legal occupancy. I was working with all the contractors. I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Oh, of course. I've been there, Mark. I mean, you saw ours. We had no idea what we were doing. Who does? Right? Like with these small startup companies that are rocket ships, none of us know what we're doing. We're just making it up. Like that's the crazy thing. When you say that, it's like, yeah, of course you didn't know. Have you ever done a warehouse build before? Like,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was very expensive.
5 months. 5 months with no product.
5 months with nothing. I mean, I did this sale to say, hey, we are moving. I wanted to let everybody know we're moving. And that I told him I hope I can get your product to you in 2 months. The support was unbelievable. I think we did something like 60 or 70 grand at that point.
Wow.
It was just wild in like 2 or 3 days. And that really helped us through that time. And, we were very profitable. Our overhead was very low with her operating out of her aunt's facility. And so we built a nice bank account, and it covered the cost to be able to move into this 12,000 square foot warehouse that we have in Columbus, Ohio now. And when we reopened in January of 2022, the best we could, we did 3.6 million in 2022.
Wow. Wow. That is phenomenal considering you had like what I would think is like, Mark, wasn't all that momentum gone? Like during that 5 months that you couldn't serve product, like wasn't the momentum gone? And yet you went and did that in 2022.
It was wild. I remember my buddy leaving my house one day, and I told him about it as he was leaving. We hung out all day, and he was like, "Dude, how the hell could I not tell that was going on?" He goes, "That's very serious." And it was just my way of kind of dealing with it internally and knowing that we were going to figure it out. It wasn't going to be easy, but that we were going to go through every length possible to be as scrappy as possible and figure it out. We got through it. We found a really small place that I don't tell many people about during that 5 months to make product for a month. And that helped us gain some ground for when we've got legal access to that space.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Mark, let's dive into some of the bigger things that have happened in the past. At one point, you just randomly decided to send Rogan some. What happened there?
Yeah. Joe, he found us through one of our Facebook ads. And the story.
Okay.
Yeah. So the story with that is he apparently visited the website via the ad. Something I screwed up because he bounced. He didn't buy. And he had started following us. When he saw that ad, he clicked follow on Instagram, and we all freaked out that day. And then 1 week later,
were you like going and checking, like, is this the real Joe Rogan? Is this just like a...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So a week later, I see a post from him, and my stomach dropped. It was a kick to the sack, bro. He had shared the competitor's product. Made me want to throw up, man. We were like all in not a good space that day. But because he started following me, I had an opening through his DMs. And I was just like, screw it.
Right.
I'm going to reply to him. And I'm going to say, hey, when you are ready, because I'm thinking he followed us. There was interest. I'm like, when you're ready to compare the two, I'd love for you to give us a shot.
And just for any, old people listening to this podcast, because I know some of you are out there, I'm going to consider me old too, 37. I didn't exactly grow up on Instagram, but kind of. When somebody follows you, you can then send them a direct message and it'll go into their primary inbox. So this is why this is actually a freaking massive deal that Joe Rogan followed you, because then you can actually communicate with him. Like that's crazy. And also everybody pause this podcast right now and think in your, like whoever's following you on Instagram. Caro used to have an awesome service that would actually let you identify these people for whoever's following you, so that you could just like DM them right in there. And there's still other services out there. I'm sure Caro they were just on the podcast recently. I'm sure they've got that software somewhere in the back there. But really incredible to be able to already have this warm intro and then have a DM that somebody actually answers. So I just wanted to make that little aside there before you keep going.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, he responded. He responded late that evening, and we sent him some product, and he got back to us maybe 5-7 days later, and he straight up was like, "This is on another level." He's like, "This is the greatest snack I've ever had in my entire life. What are you guys doing over there?" And so that was really cool and humbling. He ended up sharing it, and all he did was share up a crinkled up bag of carnivore snacks at like midnight. And we popped
on Instagram.
Yep.
Okay.
We did like 50 grand, I think, off of that. And
was that a post or a story?
It was just a story. It's all us. And it drove that much. And that confirmed that for myself and my partner, who we discussed before we started this company, that we never want to take on any investments or anything like that. And we haven't to this day. But we always made this joke that if it was Joe Rogan, like we would consider it because he's just perfect for us. We've just stayed very committed to staying connected with him, and he stays connected with us. He's a huge customer. He buys the product. We don't just send him product. He buys the product now, lots of it. And I'm very grateful for him for sure.
Absolutely. I want to get over to this whole idea, and I want us to riff on this idea a little bit here, because it sounds like through a couple of things that we've talked about here, the sort of principle behind everything that I'm hearing from this success, Mark, and hopefully, everyone who's listening to this as well will hear this. And to me, there's one word, and it's leverage, right? It's finding those leverage points, not in a gross kind of way of like, ooh, I want to get in with that person because they have leverage. Not at all, but like thinking about your co-founder, right? Who had built up all of this leverage, right? In the carnivore world, right? Building up all this leverage and all of this network so that when she asked, right, it was like a no-brainer. People were like, oh yeah, of course, I already trust you, right? So like leverage and trust go together so much. And when you pick up somebody like Joe Rogan, who has so much leverage and trust with people because of the type of interviewer that he is and just the type of person that he is, you immediately, like, the guy shares a story and you get $50,000 of sales. Like, where else do you find that kind of leverage? That's the crazy thing. So when you think about that with Joe Rogan, because you kind of went all the way to the top, where do you see those next bits of leverage coming? And is that how you're thinking about this?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, it's great to have him there, but that's obviously not, that's just a small part of our strategy. The number one focus for us is always like product quality, because we do all of our own manufacturing. We have full control over the supply chain. Our product is very different and it's viral. So we have to continue to make a great product as we scale, as equipment changes, as models changes in terms of the equipment. So that's where we start foundationally, because it makes the marketing so easy. When I tell you, I don't think you've had an opportunity to try the product, but when I tell you how different this texture is, it's ridiculous. And it's just 2 ingredients. It's just meat and salt. So people are blown away by what you can achieve with just 2 ingredients, just the flavor from the meat. And then a lot of our cuts still have fat on it. So sometimes this is a boring answer for people that really want to get in the weeds and get strategic, but I'm telling you, like, I've been in this space for a long time. My job is ridiculously easy because of how good this product is when we're obsessed with it. Like, I'm discounting it 50% off if it does not reach our standards. Like, it takes a lot. So that's our first primary focus. But the other thing is just, for me, it's been, where can we be different as a company in terms of engagement? I just think about what people do in the e-commerce space. And she's like, okay, you launch a company, you get your email marketing set up, you get this set up, you get your ad set up, and then it just is what it is, right? So people are getting emails, and that's great. And that you got to do that a lot.
But that's just the basics, right? That's the foundational kind of stuff that has to get done.
Correct. Yeah. And so I'm just thinking to myself, how can we create something that doesn't rely so much on our marketing? So number one, it's product. And I said, let's look at the membership model. And so we've launched a membership model, and the numbers in the early going, it's been launched for about 3 months. It's unreal. The AOV is completely popped. The frequency in which they buy has closed. So these members are not just buying more frequently, but every time they buy, they're buying more. And it's very similar to the Costco model. It's just we give them 5% cash back on all their purchases, and they pay us $59 a year. And so that's been a game.
Do you think Fondue for that?
No, we're using Invitorate.
Oh, Invitorate. Okay, nice. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
So
it's the C2C world, guys, is so tiny. It's like all these people. Mike, you've either been on my podcast or we've had wine or beer together. So that's great.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I mean, they've been great. They have a really good software. It's just really easy to create something flexible and unique to what you want it to be. So that's really been a huge focus for us. And with our company, we're so focused on regenerative agriculture and buying as much of the animal as possible, because that's how farms really benefit. If we just go and say we want to buy a shit ton of one cut, that doesn't really help them. They're trying to sell the whole cow, right? So our idea was, let's just launch as many products as possible. Let's launch a new product every month. Let's make these things limited edition. Let's get members who get access to some of the cuts that are harder for us to source in large supply. and let's
Yeah.
make somebody pay for that access.
Yeah.
And so we've really created a very exciting, engaging company where people are actively coming to the website to see if there's something new, or actively coming to the website because they know they're getting a percentage back on their purchase. And so that's kind of where I've been operating.
Mark, I friggin' love it. So I've been in the apparel space for years, and this is the apparel playbook, right? The apparel playbook is constant new releases constantly, right? And limited time drops that are only available for this amount of time. It just works. It's a playbook that has been around for, I don't know, since the advent of time. But people are not using it in these other industries. And so I hear you doing this and trying to use the whole cow. How awesome is that? Like, does anyone else think that is friggin' awesome? Because from a sustainability standpoint too, like I am not a vegan or a vegetarian. I love meat. I absolutely love meat. And yet I know of this like massive amount of waste that happens in the meat industry. And so this is really, really compelling. So Mark, where do you go from here? What are the next steps? Where do you get to that sort of like, 10 to 100 million kind of range? Where does that happen, that scaling?
Yeah, we're in a tough space to scale. I mean, we're still scaling quick. Like we're going to finish this year at 12 million, somewhere around that. But yeah, when I start to think about like the 50 million spot, like I really start to get a little bit scared because there still needs to be room for our industry to grow alongside of us, because we only source from US ranchers that practice regenerative agriculture. And while it's popping, blowing up, it takes time to build regenerative systems. So, farmer comes in, they want to start a farm. Like it's going to take a couple years to become really good at what they do and to start proving that they're storing more carbon in the soil than what's being emitted. So that's the only part I'm getting. But I will say, if there's anything we've done better than anybody in this space, is we've become a very good customer in the industry. Meaning we have a really good grip on the supply chain. We're familiar with almost all the sources. We have effective aggregator models moving in different directions that allow us still to communicate on a one-to-one basis with the farms that are directly involved. So I want to stay ahead. That's the only way I think that we can scale this, is if I stay ahead of the supply chain and remain one of the top customers there. And then obviously, warehouse stuff, manufacturing, you just got to make sure you get your finances model out, know when you got to buy new dehydrators and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, I got to ask you the question I ask everyone who comes on the podcast. What is your secret to scaling?
Secret to scaling is you have to be over obsessive with the product that you're offering. It's such the easiest way to scale. It takes a lot of the heavy lifting away.
I think about products like that I absolutely love. I'm thinking one, I don't know why this one's coming to mind right now, AeroPress. Funny, they actually came to us, like coffee company. They actually got purchased by a local private equity company, and they came to us for marketing. And I was like, AeroPress marketing? I'm like, you don't need to market. You're AeroPress. Like there's no one else out there that's even close to you or will ever be close to you. And that's a great example. Now, I would still love to work with AeroPress. If you guys are listening, don't please come to us. I'd love to. But it's the kind of company that the product is so ridiculously solid that it just does its own marketing for it. When I look at our Canadian clothing company, our baby one, 50% of people say they find out about us from word of mouth, right? That's 50% of our marketing I don't have to spend, right? Or that I can spend on other things. And that's only because of good product.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, and figuring that out. I watched a great keynote by Alex Ramosi this week. And that essentially was the hour-long keynote. It's like, just work on improving your product and then work on improving the offer of how you show what this product is actually worth. And that's all you got to be doing all day.
I mean, your performance on anything marketing is just going to be improved. It's just going to be improved. And you send an email out, like you're just going to sell more product if your product is wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, I got three more questions. I hope that you are ready.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Favorite tool or app that you're using right now?
Favorite tool or app? I got to say Invitorate.
That's great. Big shout out to Dylan and the team over there. Good job, guys.
Everybody should just think, just take one day tomorrow. Think, can the membership model work for your business?
Yeah. Yeah. And the answer is probably yes.
Mm-hmm.
The second question for you, favorite podcast or audiobook that you're listening to right now?
Podcast. I gotta give a shout out to Joe Rogan. I try not to miss any episodes, but I do like Taylor Holiday's podcast.
Yes. Yes. I like Taylor's podcast too. Taylor and I did a swap a few months ago, and that was a blast. I loved actually being on there to see what a conversational podcast looks like. I'm so obsessed with like tactics and strategy and really trying to squeeze all of that out for people. And it was just such a nice, like, conversational sort of, I'm just not used to that. So that was great. Absolutely love those guys over there at CTC as well. Last question for you, Mark. You just found out you have a year to live. What changes?
I'd probably sell my part in carnivore snacks and try not to be super concerned with working and focus more on family and life. You know, it gets hard and you get it, man. Gets hard.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I would sell. I love doing this, by the way. I love it. But yeah, if somebody said I got a year to live, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it just changes. It just goes from long-term outlook to very short-term. And that doesn't mean that that's the way we have to live now. Right. It's like, that's because I ask this question every single podcast, and every single time it's a mirror back to me too. And I'm like, how does this all work? How does this life work?
Yeah, it's challenging. And you're right. Like what I just said, you should be doing it anyway. But we get caught up, we get obsessed with work, and no regrets. But
yeah. Mark, where can people connect with you and find out more about Carnivore Snacks?
For the business stuff, yeah, RitzFit _ I think is what it is on Twitter. Maybe it's just RitzFit. I never remember if it's an underscore or not. But
we'll throw in the show notes, guys.
Throw in the show notes.
Yeah.
Carnivoresnacks.com. Snacks, by the way, is spelled with an X. And, we also use TapCart for the mobile app. If anybody likes to use mobile apps to shop. Yeah, that's it. Instagram, carnivore.snacks. Check us out.
Awesome. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will absolutely check you out. So, Mark, thank you again so much for your time today.
Appreciate it, brother.